Hello, Colt, and welcome
Evan,
to what?
What? You can't just start a podcast on my stream with "Hello, Colt,"
Why not?
because then they'll get all rowdy.
Just think, I think it's fun.
It's a community under leadership of Tim. Okay, that's what we're doing. Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to a special live episode of Star Wars and Scotch.
Why is it so special, though, Tim?
Because we're live, Kevin. Not
But
because
why else is it special, Tim?
he really wants me to continue calling him the special guest. I told him at the gym I'm not doing that. So
No.
Kevin's here, like always, for Star Wars and Scotch. It's just here on my channel today. You guys, chat, you can call him our special guest if you'd like.
Yay! I was going for more the fact that Obi-Wan dropped today, but sure, I'll be the special guest.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
Remember that, Tim? That thing you spent 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. Obi-Wan. Man, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch that.
God bless you. God bless you. Yeah, I was up like normal time, and I watched it, and then I had to get boy to school, and I was dying. So it's like, what happens on the next episode? So I'm excited to dive into this with you because there's so much.
Yes.
But yeah, welcome to Willow and Scotch. I mean, Star Wars and Scotch.
Okay, so before we go into anything, yesterday, Kevin and I, if you missed it, Kevin and I did like a Star Wars Celebration Day 1 panel live stream. We were gonna like watch the Lucasfilm panel, and then we were gonna talk about our reactions. Well, they pulled the live stream from that, and they're like, it's gonna be behind closed doors. You don't get to see any of it unless you're there, and then we'll talk about Willow on the live stream for an hour. So grumpy, dude. I had to watch a pirated version of the Mandalorian trailer.
Where the last 30 seconds or 40 seconds, the whole
where he's
bottom
like
half of the screen.
it's looking at the ceiling. So I mean, like, I really felt like I was in like circa 2008, and I had like watched a movie that I wasn't supposed to be watching illegally obtained.
That trailer was awesome, though.
Very good, and we'll talk about that too, I'm sure. Maybe.
But yeah, episode 84, Star Wars and Scotch, live at fb.gg/darkness429. So welcome everyone this morning as we dive into it. Before we get going, we do want to remind you to drink King's Coast coffee. All of you, especially these folks, definitely 150% ordered the Darkness 429 cold brew. We sold. Did you hear how many we sold?
No, I haven't told them. I didn't know if we were allowed to tell them how many.
Just shy of 1,200 4-packs.
We did that in like, I think collectively, and the amount of time that it was available for purchase was like 48 hours, like total.
Not even.
Even.
It was more like 6, because day 1 was 61 minutes, and day 2 it just lingered for a little while, and then by the time I woke up the next morning, it was all gone.
Really, it took that? Wow! Bravo, chat. Nicely done. So, good job.
Yeah,
thank you.
It was pretty quick. So enjoy your cold brew. It started shipping out this week, so you should be receiving it if you haven't received it already. And head over to kingscoastcoffee.com. More cold brew drops coming. If you're coming to GCX, perfect segue, you can get some of the GCX specialty cold brew, only available at GCX this year. And if you are coming to GCX, you can also hang out at the Star Wars and Scotch panel we have going on. It's going to be me, Tim, our good friend Sawyerism, Alex and Molly Damon from Star Wars Explained, and the voice of Star Wars on Audible, Mark Thompson, all live from GCX. Now, if you're not coming to GCX and you're like, damn it, I can't, it's my brother's, sister's, uncle's, cousin's wedding or something. Cool. You can watch it online. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be on Twitch. It'll be on YouTube. You'll be able to watch it on all the platforms. I believe it'll be on the Rare Drop channel on all those platforms. Yes. You'll be able to tune in live and hang out for the live episode of Star Wars and Scotch. But if you haven't got your tickets and you want to come, gcxevent.com/tickets. If you want to book a room, gcxevent.com/hotel. There's only like, I don't even know. There's less than 100 rooms left, I think. So you might want to jump on that if you are planning on going to see Tim. Also, if you're coming, there's a special Tim thing on the floor. Wink. So come.
I only know bits and pieces of it, and they're gonna freak.
Just a little bit. And we also have some, actually, while we're here, this is the perfect place to tell you all this. We're going to have some merch left over from last year's merch drop. I was digging around in the storage space with Paul last week, and I said, Paul, what's in this box? And he goes, I think it's hoodies and shirts. And I rip it open, and lo and behold, it just said Darkness 429. So we'll be selling some of that merch as well at GCX. So if you missed that drop, you'll be able to come hang out and do that. Tim.
Yes, sir.
Holy shit, dude.
It was a crazy how many minutes did this clock in at? So the first one was definitely long. It was almost 2 hours, almost 2 hours worth of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I think the best way to put it, if I could summarize my entire experience in one word, it would just be goosebumps.
Hearing his voice, seeing him. Um, Also, can we just the fact that his disguise was his old look as a Jedi, I was like Obi-Wan.
Oh,
That
I mean, like him hiding in plain sight was fantastic. I was so I was talking to my buddy CJ, who's a huge Star Wars nerd, and he worked on Battlefront and stuff. So like we always talk about Star Wars stuff together. And the frail PTSD Obi-Wan, I like. I really like this character a lot. Like it really shows like this just how bad it really got for the Jedi.
it's definitely a departure from the confident, Clone Wars era Anakin Obi-Wan duo that we saw
Well, they were
in
very
4
pious.
episodes. Yeah, they were. And he
You know,
knows that at this point.
uh-huh. And it starts to lean very heavy on the mentality that Luke portrayed in episode 8. You know, like the time of the
Mhm.
Jedi is past. And so like you can really start to look at, even Luke feeling the same level of responsibility and of this failure. Like a lot of it falls to him. He feels like, the fall of the Jedi Order, Obi-Wan feels like, it really could have been, his fault for training Anakin is the reason why the Jedi Order fell. And then the same thing for Luke. He trains Ben, and then everything comes crashing down around him, literally.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's really weird and kind of enjoyable to see a Jedi not powerful, to see them not like running around just like cutting everything in half, like really being like as frail as you and I. They aren't superheroes. They really are people. And it's allowing us to have that connection with Obi-Wan that you probably couldn't have before.
He used a blaster, which, if I recall, he calls an uncivilized weapon at one
I
point.
love that so much because he talks so much shit about blasters.
But at the same time, the YouTube video you sent me described it perfectly. It wasn't necessarily that he didn't want to use his lightsaber, it was that
Mhm.
he was trying to mask his trail.
It was out of a need of necessity.
Right, because if he killed someone with a lightsaber, that would indicate that there is a Jedi on the run. If he kills someone with a blaster, well, everyone and their mother has a blaster. It's a Star Wars universe, so
Yeah.
it's a different story.
I think what's also really interesting, just kind of like going against Ben's nature, is a big showcase in the first episode. The first episode really shows how Obi-Wan is no longer the Obi-Wan, the general, the Jedi Knight, the teacher, the father figure. He is now the shell of a man who's broken and is trying to just survive.
Mhm.
And the idea of going against his own moral code in many instances, the idea of not like reaching out and helping, like you can see right there, they're freak he is reduced to harvesting meat off of a crate dragon. Like that's what he's doing, which I
Was
think
that a
was
crate
awesome.
dragon?
That is 100% a crate dragon. Look
Did
at Mando. Go back to Mando season 2 when they blow up the crate dragon and everyone goes running after the carcass to start cutting it up and turning it into food. That's exactly what that is. There's nothing else that we've seen so far that could fit that profile and be that big. I think
so
that's a fin or something to a crate dragon.
on that note, that to me looked like some sort of old creature from when the Dune Sea was actually a sea. But then I was stuck on the fact, like, how would the meat be
Yeah,
okay
that's
if
fresh
that was
meat.
the
There's
case?
no way. Well, fresh-ish meat.
But then wasn't killing the crate dragon like next to impossible?
I
So
mean, it
did it
was
just
next. Okay, it was
die?
next to impossible for the people of Mos Pelego and the Sand People, but I mean, like, we're in Mos Eisley. We're in a massive spaceport, and they could have like greater technology than what some like just like little town would have.
All
So
right, I'm sure that'll come out. But yeah,
I'm kind of like on board with the thought that what Obi-Wan is doing is harvesting a crate dragon since we saw them do that. They do the exact same kind of thing in Mando season 2. So
mhm.
that's my thought. That was my thought of that scene.
In compromising morals when they're doing that, the guy's like, "You only paid me half," and
Yeah,
and
and
then
the guy who's running the thing looks at him and he's like, "What are you gonna do about it?" And I'm just like, "Oh, hit him! Just
I
mind trick him, do something." And he
I
just
thought
took it.
he was going to give him his credits or something when they got back on that transport, but he didn't do
No.
anything, which was the most un-Obi-Wan thing we've ever seen him do.
It's because he has to survive. He needs to eat. Like, I mean, you
Yep.
see him, he's literally shaving off meat and putting it in his chest pocket just to, be able to survive. So I think that's the biggest thing is Ben understands that, and he says it multiple times, even when like this new Jedi we've never seen before, who somehow ends up on Tatooine, finds Obi-Wan, knows exactly who he is. He doesn't even reach out to help him. He's like, no, go bury your lightsaber, go live a normal life, be gone. And like even the idea of not even entertaining not even entertaining the discussion of helping this individual,
Yeah, it wasn't even an
other than
option.
go be like me and go be like every other Jedi that's still alive and hide your lightsaber and just hang out. And that was a really cool nod to what they did in Jedi Fallen Order as well. Cal
Mhm.
Kestis is another example of a Jedi that's hiding in plain sight and is working this just really just meaningless manual labor job to survive, just so he can eat. And I really like that. I really like that they've showcased that in multiple forms of media now, in comics, in video game, in now movie, in cinema slash Disney Plus. I don't even know how you really like call that format other than just that, but it's really well done.
I also was expecting, like a slow roll almost, this is where Obi-Wan is, this is what he's been doing, but out of the gate they're like, "Order 66 again, enjoy."
Oh my god. Okay, so did you so immediately when they open up in the Jedi Council and it's younglings, I'm just like it's Anakin scene all over again. I really thought that we were just going to get a replay and I'm just like that
Mhm.
is not, please don't. And then when they open it up and they just like they showcase the children. So I think what that is a part of the hatred from the fifth sister, right?
Riva, that's Riva.
From Riva. I
Mhm.
think Riva is in that group of children. I think she's to the left. She's either the one kneeling or looking over the shoulder of the other younglings at the fallen master. And I think that's the beginning of her story is because like even like the Inquisitor looks at her as trash. But we know with the Inquisitor, we know that he is a Jedi a Jedi Temple guard that was turned by Anakin.
Mhm.
And so he is like the elite of the elite when it comes to the Jedi Order, when it comes to their warriors, like he is top dog. And so for him to look at Riva as someone who is beneath him, trash, found in the dirt, I think is because she's a youngling that had no training, that was very strong in the Force, but that was it. And so that's why she has no formal training. He looks at her as just scum.
I have a feeling as this so first of all, fast forwarding a little bit because we're not breaking down the episode scene by scene. We're gonna have a discussion about it. So, first of all, towards the end of the second episode, when Riva stabs the Grand Inquisitor, obviously we know the Grand Inquisitor is still alive because this all happens before Rebels, and he's one of the major characters through at least season one of Rebels. I think he
Oh
dies in
yeah,
the
just
finale.
yeah. So when you guys all went at the end, it's okay. He comes back.
So, with that knowledge, Riva's gonna get it. She's gonna get it. She's out. She's not gonna
Oh,
be an Inquisitor by the end
100%,
of
dude.
episode three.
He's either gonna kill her or
Vader.
she gets chucked out.
Vader.
Okay, so but here's the thing though. So did you have you read any of like any of the Vader comics when it comes to how he treats the Inquisitors?
Yes. Oh yeah. No. I know the whole story of how you become an Inquisitor, which
Okay,
is dark
perfect. So
and disturbing.
like the whole like cutting the hand off thing was a
Mhm.
direct throwback to Vader comic. In case you guys didn't know, when she starts threatening to cut people's hands off, that's because Vader did it to her. Vader cut her hand off. Most definitely. He cut all of the Inquisitors'
I was
hands
gonna say, don't they
off.
all have it? Yeah.
They
Yeah.
all get their hands cut off to remind them.
It's like a
And
cult, Tim.
it's essentially, yeah, but so like and their suits all have like pain sensors in them so like he can like increase their overall pain because he knows that more pain, more suffering increases your connection to the dark side, which increases your power and all those things. And Riva is power hungry. She's insane. She is nutty. She's crazier than the Grand Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor has rules. He has essentially like a code. There's a way for him to go about doing business. She doesn't care. That is pure hatred and anger. And I want to know what Obi-Wan did to her. I'm really intrigued because
She's
there is something there.
she's one of those 5 kids, so,
That's what I'm saying,
I
dude.
have
There's something about that. There's a connection.
yeah, they'll go back and document what happened there 100%, but I think it's gonna be after she's removed from the Inquisitory. Um, and again, I don't know if it's gonna be the Grand Inquisitor or it's gonna be Vader, but I have a feeling that's not gonna go well for her at all.
Mm.
So it'll be interesting to see because she could end up being a hero by the end of all this if you
I
follow that
hope
trail.
not. And I really hope not. That would be a very Battlefront-esque thing for them to do. To take an Imperial character and then flip them halfway through the show. I don't know if I like that.
I'm not saying full on rebel, but some sort of redemption arc where, because she's hell bent on revenge. She's steeped in the dark side right now. And she, at least with the Grand Inquisitor, there's restraint. He knows he has to bring them in alive so he can torture them. I think his point to torture them, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to make more Inquisitors. Am I wrong?
I mean, like that is a part of it. Yeah, when he says like prepare them for what
Interrogation.
interrogation and stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, like there's a whole part of becoming an inquisitor, but I don't think they want to actually turn Obi-Wan. I think they know why.
Oh, not Obi-Wan, the other guy, the other Jedi earlier in the episode.
Oh, yeah, they wanted to flip him.
Yeah,
Most
Obi-Wan,
definitely.
the Grand Inquisitor literally says he's the last ember from a
The
dying age
last
or
ember
something.
from a dying age, and it's time to snuff him out. And I was
Yeah,
like,
no, they want him dead. But
yeah, because he's too strong. But if you can take a youngling, you take someone like Cal Kestis, even like the second sister, I forget her actual name, but those are all people that were like they weren't Jedi Knights, but they weren't younglings, they were Padawans, so they were still very much so. They're very strong, but they have not been kind of formed in the way of the Jedi. They're kind of just like they're
right,
essentially like wayfinders, right? They're kind of just like out there, kind of just like finding their path. And so like that's a perfect time for you to flip somebody. Look at Anakin. You flipped Anakin as he was starting to, grow in his power and become more, more powerful. But you just, you kind of just tip the scale a little bit in the other direction, and there you go. You got a little bit of pain and suffering, and you got an Inquisitor. So,
on that note, did you feel like Haja, Camille Nanjiani's character,
I love
was
him so
going to
much.
hand that child over to the Inquisitor? Because that was my initial, like,
No,
"Oh god."
no, he's always a good guy. Like he's typecasted as a good guy. So I didn't see him actually doing anything nefarious. If anything, he's gonna be one of Obi-Wan's sidekicks. I'm looking at it like how Favreau does Mandalorian or even Boba Fett. They video gamify it.
Mhm.
And so Obi-Wan has sidekicks, right? And so the first one is gonna be your little Jawa friend. Chicken feet, chickpeas, whatever his name is. First off, he probably had relations with what's her face down in the hangar bays. Dottie.
Probably
Him and Dottie
Molly.
had probably gotten it on. Molly?
Peli
Ellie.
Motto.
Kelly Motto. Anyway, so those guys have probably been boinking. But I love him, and he brings Obi-Wan his little scraps when he needs to repair, or he takes
What is
stuff from
that?
Obi-Wan and then gives it back to him, which I think is great.
What does a half Jawa, half human look like?
Man, I'm sure it's ugly. It's really ugly. and then you've got what is his I'm blanking new names Haja
Haja.
he's gonna be like Obi-Wan's. He's gonna be like the fun guy who kind of just gets into a little bit of trouble every episode. You're like, oh, Haja, like I'm really excited for these. They're great.
It I I'm so first of all, we were right about Bale showing up again.
Are we gonna
I
jump
did
right
not
into that?
Yeah. Because it starts to connect the dots here. Because I wanted to get back to the message to Obi-Wan. Because I feel like that's a poignant part in the whole character discussion, but you got to set the backstory with them. I did not think it was to this degree, let alone the fact that they kept the secret that Leia is basically one of the main characters in the show, more so than
She's
Luke.
so awesome. I
She
love her.
is absolutely adorable, and she
Little Leia.
completely reminds me of my youngest daughter.
Yeah,
Completely.
they did a great job of giving her that attitude that Padme has, or
Yep.
even like older Leia has
Dude,
in
I felt
episode
it in my
4.
chest when
Yeah, and
they
like
had that conversation.
when Obi-Wan says you remind me of someone, and I was just like, oh, he's gonna say Padme, isn't he? And I just like, I was so sad. And when he says she's dead and she says, I'm sorry, I just wanted to cry. I go, it's not your fault, little one. It was
Yeah, and
just
then
like, that hurt.
in 30 seconds, you're gonna find out her father's still alive too.
Yeah, dude. But anyway, so the whole bail thing, I mean, like, I feel like we all knew it was coming. I didn't really feel like the severity of that meeting needed to be that, but I'm glad it was. I just don't like how Bale automatically was able to connect with Obi-Wan via a comm link that they haven't used in 10 years. Like the if you start thinking like, but actually, like if you start looking at it from like a really nerdy tech point, like of the world, I don't think there's any way that could have worked. Also for him to like pinpoint Bale or Obi-Wan's location, like easy peasy, and end up in his secluded cave that nobody knew was there. That felt a little forced,
Bale's
but
spy network is
Bale needed to,
ridiculous,
and like
though.
yeah, right. But like, why could like Bale physically going there? Like, why couldn't that have just been done like over comms? It just like it was just kind of crazy that he just like he found Obi-Wan, he was in his house, he was there.
He could have found him based on the communicator, though, the message.
Right, but if he could have found him, then other people could have found him. There's no way that thing was that encrypted where they were able to like have a tight beam connection from Tatooine to Alderaan. It just feels off to me, but I understand why they did it. They needed to have that personal face-to-face connection to display the emotion that was going on. It needed to showcase how much Bale loves Leia and how much responsibility that he knows is on him, and he feels really bad, and he knows that he doesn't have the ability nor the tool set nor the cape nor just like the story to tell to get him off of Alderaan, away from the Senate, to go find Leia. So who else do you turn to? Well, the only guy that you know that could kick ass and protect everybody is Obi-Wan. So of course, like, you have to go talk to him to showcase that. And then like Ben coming on, and in that discussion, and Ben's showcasing that it's been 10 years. He's cut himself off from the Force. He's weak. He's just a man. And they did a great job of showing that. And I love the ending when he gets to the spaceport and he's just like, he's thinking about it. He's like, you gonna get on? You gonna go? And I thought that was a really, really cool way of just like kicking Obi-Wan in the ass. Just like, oh, get in there.
Also, his lightsaber just like out there. That's what I mean about his
I thought
outfit.
I thought that was so great. He looked like a gunslinger at that point when he pushed his poncho back and his lightsaber was hanging off his belt.
So expanding on that, we have the two children. Obviously, we know Obi-Wan's been watching over Luke. Owen in the comics and here is like, please stay out of his life. He's better off without you. You know, the just like you trained his father line that we've all seen in the
I
trailer.
love that meme so much.
That was a tense moment. And then when the Inquisitor found Owen and threatened to kill him and his family, and he still kept it quiet, shows you that Owen's not totally Owen's main goal is in his head is to protect Luke at all costs, no matter what. That is what that told me. He doesn't give a damn about Obi-Wan, but he knows if they get Obi-Wan, that then they could potentially get to Luke. So Owen's job is to protect Luke, and you could tell that Owen loves Luke too. I wanted to point that out. It's not this like surrogate adopted relationship. Like, he loves, because he calls him his son.
I'm trying to figure out their relationship. I'm wondering, does he love Luke because he loved Shmi? Like,
Probably.
was Shmi such a great mom to Owen and a great wife to Lars that he feels like he owes it to Shmi to protect her grandson? You know, like, that's the whole thing. It's like,
so.
I feel like there's a deep emotional connection that they aren't really diving into with Owen's character, because you're right. I feel like he feels like it's a personal order, you know, like he has like a calling to protect this boy and treat him as his son. But why? He has no relation to him. So that's the one thing I want to know more about.
I think he loved his stepmom, and I think he knows the ramifications of what Luke means to the galaxy. And his way of quote unquote saving the galaxy is protecting Luke by keeping Luke away from everything.
Sure.
Which we see in episode 4. You're going to stay on Tatooine. You don't need to join the, you know, there was
It explains so much.
Yeah, you could see the bridge from how he feels, but also he does. There's a response, because he calls him his son. He does not say my nephew. He doesn't say, he says my son.
Yep.
So you don't just say that because you don't, especially when you don't have to as a step parent or a surrogate parent, you don't have to say that. He's
Right.
saying my son, which means he
Yeah,
cares for him deeply, in my opinion.
for sure. I agree
Uh,
100%.
and then we have Leia on. First of all, when they showed the snow-capped mountains, I was like, Alderaan, Alderaan, because it looks just like it does in the quick scene. We see it when they're celebrating. I believe it's when is it? In one of the in one of the prequels, they show it very quickly. Um, anyway, and then it looked just like it did in SWTOR as well. So
Yeah,
I was
it
super
reminded me
pleased.
a lot of that time I saw it blow up in episode 4.
That YouTube video you sent me, he's like, "Oh, what a beautiful planet. Shaman has to go," and then it showed him flowing out. He goes, "Anyway, uh, but Leia, you can see that to me, Leia has so much of both of her parents in her,
Yeah.
as we see her in later movies. The first of all, the sass and the feistiness is completely Leia. It's completely Padme, and it's also Anakin.
Bit of Anakin,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and just the way she's either in the kitchen, the cellar, or in the woods was my favorite.
I like that a lot. That was cool.
And
Did
then,
you did you know that one of those ships that they showcased when she's looking up was actually designed by Porsche?
yes, the try
The
something
the
ship, the new
Tri-Wing.
one. It's
Yeah, it was
brand new,
it's called a
to the series.
Tri-Wing. It's new to the universe, and it was designed by Porsche, which I thought was pretty neat.
Did you know that the bounty hunter that grabs her is Flea from the Red Hot Chili
Yeah,
Peppers?
from Red Hot Chili Peppers. How crazy is that?
Vect is his character's name.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
But her mother definitely has that like motherly but forgiving, way about her and trying to teach her and raise her right. And you can tell that Bale is completely the softy with her. Like
I
she
love that relationship.
she has his heart. There's nothing you can do
Oh,
about
she's
it.
wrapped around that. Just
Oh
wrapped
my
around the finger so hard, dude.
Oh my god! Because when he comes down to a knee, when she says like after she has the fight with her cousin, and she's like, I'm not even an Organa, and he gets down on one knee, and he like looks her in the eye, and he's like, "Don't you ever say that again." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to weep right now because this is the most adorable thing." And yeah, so it was really the best surprise in all of it was little Leia, and I hope this isn't it. Like, I hope she's a part of this entire journey because I want there is an element, Tim, and tell me if you agree, of retconning kind of a little bit of episode 4 with this relationship. How did you feel about that?
Um, so I thought about this a couple of times because I thought I went and thought back to the line of when she said, in the transmission, you helped my father before, or you served my father in the Clone Wars. And so it was like, okay, why do you call on that memory when you need help, right? It wouldn't have been, you helped me before, and I'm asking you to help me again. Something
Yeah.
along those lines. And so, yeah, it's a little weird, but at the same time, I feel like giving Leia's character more screen time and more character development outside of a book or a comic book and using her as a sidekick in this is fantastic. I think it's really great, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of her because to your point, Kevin, it really does start to really retcon that connection that she has with her and Ben. Because like she gets excited when Luke says, I'm here with Ben Kenobi, and she's like, Ben Kenobi, where is he? Like she hasn't seen him in a long time. So maybe it's not truly a retcon. Maybe it was just a formal. Because she is a senator, maybe it was more of a formal call. Maybe it was a formal communication of the sense of like, hey, you have, you owe this to my father. You don't owe me anything. But you owe my father this. So,
Yeah.
I'm calling on you to serve again. So I really don't want to think that this is a retcon because Filoni has done a fantastic job of keeping true to what George Lucas put out in front of us. He always says George created this, created the sandbox. Now we get to play in it. And so he's done a really good job of making sure things don't feel awkward and everything gets explained. And so I think that Leia's not going to be a big character. Is she going to be throughout the show? Yeah, I think so. Is she going to be on Obi-Wan's side the entire time? No way in hell.
Yeah, and we saw she didn't trust him, rightfully so, because she's in this horrible situation, and it took him reconnecting with the Force after 10 years, because you can tell he completely cut himself off.
Yeah,
Um,
he took a I'm curious. So they actually talked. You missed it because you were unable to watch the High Republic panel. But yesterday they talked about explaining the it starts with the B, the Barash vow or something like the
oh yeah,
Barash.
we've talked about that before.
Yeah, and so I think so. What they're going to do is they're actually going to explain where that comes from, and it actually comes from the
Irish
one.
vow.
There you go. It comes from the one Jedi Knight in the first book who's the cook. I sent you the name last night, totally forgetting because I'm thinking about Obi-Wan right now. Anyways, he made that. So when he was younger, he cuts himself off from the Force because he feels like he has to. And so that they explain that in this comic book. Anyways, long story short, Jedi use this. They use this ability to cut themselves off from the Force. They take this vow of just like it's a way for them to kind of like reflect and almost like purify, and then they reconnect with the Force again. Luke's done it. Obi-Wan, I think, is doing it right now until he reaches out and grabs Leia. That's it. Like, and it wasn't like a calm, like effortless, ability. Like he really like it was strenuating for him to really like reconnect with the Force. So I'm really intrigued to see what happens when he reconnects. Like, when he's calling out to Qui-Gon, he's like, Master, this would be a great time for you to show up, right? But I don't think Qui-Gon will show up until Ben fully reconnects with the Force again and really understands what's going on.
So the bearish vow, here you go. After traumatic experience, this answers both the questions. As a prisoner of the dark side, Steve Drengir, Jedi Knight Des Ryden chose to swear the vow. Jedi Master Kirik Infila was a bearish taker. Obi-Wan Kenobi took and kept the ways of the vow during the years of exile on Tatooine until leaving the planet to heed Princess Leia's Organa's call. So yeah, they just updated this
They
today.
just updated it.
Good catch, Tim. Good catch.
Look at me. Anyways,
you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Doctor Strange when America Chavez couldn't control her portals. And it always came out of a place of desperation, emotion, or something that just a traumatic thing that was like, I need to do this right now. I have to summon my power. That's what him catching Leia felt like. I don't have a choice.
Right, you saw it. You saw him. It looked like he was like, it was like the worst poop in the world. He was like, and then he grabs her
Fighting for his life.
I knew that was gonna happen when she said, "Make me float," and she's twirling around, and I was like, "Make her float, Ben! Make her float! Make her float!" And there it was. He made her float. And I just thought that was a really cool moment for me. And I told CJ this. I almost started to cry when I saw Ben like reach out. Like if anything, it was a very emotional moment for me because it was Obi-Wan coming back. It wasn't just Ben, right? It was that transformation, and you could see it. Like you saw it in that moment. He was no longer Ben. He was Obi-Wan Kenobi again. He was Jedi Knight and Master and everything else that he was, and it was all captivated in a brief moment. And it was all in it. You could see it in his face. You could see it in his eyes and just his facial expression and him straining himself to catch Leia. It was a very powerful moment that didn't need any words. And I thought that was really cool.
Which would support what you said before about the not retconning the relationship, because when she sends the message in A New Hope, she says, "Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope." She doesn't say Ben, she says Obi-Wan, and I think Filoni's playing with those two names right now, for multiple reasons.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, to establish the difference between Ben and Obi-Wan.
Well, think about it too. When he meets Luke, Obi-Wan. Now, that's a name I haven't heard since before
10 years.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. Well, it was funny though because I was like, wait, Bale just called him Obi-Wan and Luke's alive. So I thought that was funny, but that was still. I think you're right. I think you're right that he's like he literally is living two lives, right? He's got Ben Kenobi. And then he's Obi-Wan Kenobi,
the hermit
and, like,
beyond the dunes.
And they've always played around with that, right? Like the idea of like Ben and Obi-Wan, they are two different people, and so to see him go back and forth and portray both characters is going to be very interesting. And he really nailed Sir Alec Guinness's just presence. You can tell in his voice. His voice is a little more frail. He's starting to like enunciate words a little bit different. He's no longer the Obi-Wan from episode 2. Like, because that's what everybody thinks of when you think of Obi-Wan Kenobi. You think of Clone Wars Obi-Wan. You think of, the General Obi-Wan. And so it's just, he's starting to look old, and they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, and I have a feeling, because the emotions welled up numerous times, like we've said, and they're pointing towards the Anakin Obi-Wan moment. That's probably going to break all of our hearts again. So I'm getting myself emotionally guarded and prepared that meeting is just going to be gut wrenching. When they reunite. And we Kathleen Kennedy said there is a lightsaber duel, so they're going to fight again.
There's 2 lightsaber duels.
Yeah, I just like I feel like that's just gonna what is that
We've
gonna
talked
do to Obi-Wan?
Well, we've talked about it before. I think what's gonna happen is that we end we're jumping all over the place, by the way, so just so follow along. The end of episode 2, we get the first look of Vader, of Anakin in the bacta tank. And so like that right there like showed me that there's like that reconnection, right? Like when he just goes, Anakin, and Anakin's eyes
Did he
open
feel
up.
him?
I think there was a feeling, because remember, let's go back to episode 4 when Ben and him can like when they're within proximity to each other, Anakin could feel him. He was like, "That's I'm feeling something I haven't felt in a long time."
There's that. There's Rebels when Ahsoka and Anakin are dogfighting.
Mm-hmm. There's
There's
we they do this in the movies. Look at how the Force connects people together. It makes
Rey
these like
and Kylo.
exactly, right? So what's to say that we are not going to have that same type of connection again with Obi-Wan and Vader? This idea of the Force really like melding them together. I don't think they're a dyad, because that's what Rey and Ben are. They're a dyad, but I don't think that's what they're doing here. But
Force bond.
I think that there's a Force connection that's much stronger than what we're normally used to.
Because they said Ahsoka and Anakin have it, so I'd assume Obi-Wan and Anakin have it as well. We also
It's
see it with Grogu and Ahsoka when they meet.
Yeah, there's just like there's this connection with your teacher. There's something special there. And I think that's like in any walk of life, any instructor you've ever had, or any type of influential adult in your life, you have a connection with them that you don't have with another person. So it's very interesting to see them really lean into that, and watching Ben come to the realization that Anakin was dead, was an and he thought was dead, and then coming to the realization that he's alive. That was a big moment too, and I think that kind of leans into the connection, because think about it, he just reconnected to the Force, right? So all his senses are probably just like heightened, and everything feels off, and then he gets hit with this emotional bomb of, your boy's still alive, by the way. And so then he's just all over the place. He's like, that right there, that was the best portrayal of a panic attack I've ever seen anyone go through, because as soon as his eyes opened up and his face kind of went a little white, I was like, well, that's a panic attack right there, because he just shut down, and it was really cool to see
And the most
in a
important
weird
thing I
way.
think people need to remember, and this is not common knowledge, it's in the comic books and a few other places. I know you know this, Tim, because you brought it up before. Most of the universe does not know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. It is a
No, it's a
well-kept secret
secret.
within the Empire.
A huge secret.
Yep.
Even the idea of Thrawn knowing that Vader was Anakin was like, Anakin was ready to kill him.
Yep.
Vader was very much so ready to just strike Thrawn down there, because no one was supposed to know that a Jedi Knight was Darth Vader, was a
Right.
Sith Lord. They didn't want that. They didn't want to show that. They wanted him to continue to be this mechanical killing machine.
So the fact that, because I'm sure Obi-Wan has heard the name Darth Vader before. Or maybe not, because the way she says
No,
Darth Vader, his eyes go,
No,
that's when it
he
starts.
knows who Darth Vader is, because he saw the security footage of Anakin and Palpatine together, and Rise, Lord Vader.
Yes.
He watches that scene, so he
So he
knows
doesn't
who
know who
Darth Vader
Vader is.
is. He
And
knows
he
who
doesn't.
Darth Vader is, and and then he finds out that Darth Vader is alive, because he thought
That's
he
what I was
left
getting at,
Darth
yeah.
Vader to die on the shores of that lava river in Mustafar. So
Yeah.
Darth Vader and Anakin in Obi-Wan's mind was dead, and Tatooine, it's a backwater outer rim planet. They're not going to be there's going to be no whispers of a Sith Lord that's in the core realm or the core worlds. It just wouldn't happen. Like we know right now in this time period of what's going on, Vader is very much so hell-bent on revenge. He's going around and he's trying to find all the people that got Padme killed. If you want to know more about like what Vader's doing right now, the Vader comics are a fantastic place to start. Vader Immortal, the VR video game, another awesome place to start when it comes to Anakin as Darth Vader and his journey that he's going on. Dr. Aphra is another awesome. Now, Dr. Aphra and those take place a little bit later on. Those take place in between like episode 4 and 5. So some things are a little bit like farther along, but it'll give you an idea as to like the mentality or like the mental state of Anakin and like what he's trying to do. Is that he's trying to do his own thing. You know, go back to the end of episode 3 and he says, I will bring peace and what is it? Peace and prosperity to my new empire. Peace and security to my new empire. His empire, not our empire, not the emperor's empire, my empire.
Your new empire?
Your new empire. So Vader is trying to figure out how to kill the emperor right now. He's trying to kill the emperor, and he's trying to have revenge on Padme and bring Padme back to life. Those are his two big things: is Padme and killing the emperor and ruling the galaxy.
Now, one thing in the first episode when they said previously on Star Wars, which was hilarious to me, they made a point to go out of their way to be like, have Yoda's scene where he tells Anakin or tells Obi-Wan, I'll teach you how to, talk to your former master.
Yep.
We see in the episode multiple times he's trying to get in touch with Qui-Gon. I call bullshit on what's his face, Liam Neeson's statement about that he won't do a Star Wars TV show, only a movie. I call bullshit.
I mean, okay, so first off, this is a movie, not a TV show. This is a movie that's been cut up into how many episodes? 6 episodes. This is a movie. This is a long movie, and for them to not use Liam Neeson even in a voice line, I would be very disappointed because didn't he use his voice in Clone Wars?
I believe so. Yeah.
Isn't Liam Neeson's voice in Clone Wars when Yoda is on wherever the heck communicating with him?
Yes. So yeah, no, I believe that's his voice. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it would be very frustrating if he didn't show up. I would be very disappointed.
Yeah, I just don't see how you could accomplish that without him. So I am very much of the opinion that he made that statement to throw everyone off the scent. And now after watching the 2 episodes, I'm like, okay, you're in it. Just,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So he could. So he might not physically show up. Remember in Clone Wars, wasn't he just a little ball of light that was traveling around and talking? Yep. So a ball of light, because he can't be a Force ghost because he died before his training was done. So he's like in Jedi limbo right now, just kind of like hanging out in the in-between. Probably hanging out somewhere in the Veil of the Force, Kevin. I know how much you love talking about that. So this little ball of light, if a little ball of light doesn't show up in Obi-Wan's cave and Qui-Gon Jinn's voice doesn't come out of it, I'm going to be very disappointed because you're right. That's a huge plot point for Obi-Wan and being the hermit and being secluded and getting to that point of when he is struck down by Darth Vader on the Death Star, he disappears instead of leaving his mortal coil there for everyone to see.
And even if he can take physical form, they can use their CGI that they did for Leia and for Grand Moff Tarkin to reconstruct him as he looked in episode 1. But I would say the ball of light canon wise would make more sense. And as long as it's Liam Neeson's voice, there's it's him. So it's neither here nor there. But I'm convinced that at some point he will be able to connect with his former master, which leads me to my next question, Tim. And I know you hate these questions, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Does that mean at some point there's some communication with Yoda in the show? No, never go to Dagobah, never hear from Yoda through the Force.
No, because he doesn't talk, because we don't see him talk to Yoda again until he's on Dagobah with Luke. Right. And so like Obi-Wan has no idea where Yoda ended up. We just know in exile I must go. Right?
No, he says to Dagobah.
To Dagobah I must go, in exile or exile I am. Or
no, he tells them he's going to Dagobah.
So he knows he's on Dagobah, but we know that he wanted to go to Dagobah because they retconned that And he's like, that's where like this crazy connection with the Force is at. So go there and talk to Qui-Gon.
And that was
And
raw Force. It wasn't light or dark. It was just the
yeah, it was
Force.
just raw Force. And so like that's why he's there. And so
Also, on
like,
that note, hold on, pause
oh
1
man,
second.
what
Sorry.
if Qui-Gon is like the connecting piece between him and Yoda? And they could talk to each other via Qui-Gon. Oh no.
I'm going through that, and then the second thing is too, if Yoda told them where he is, that would also lend, I don't want to say a retcon, but that maybe off screen that Bail and Kenobi had discussed where he would be. Because if they knew where Yoda was, maybe they also did know where Obi-Wan was, and just those three knew where each other were at all times for, security purposes. Would that make
Maybe.
sense?
That would make sense. That would make way more sense if they all knew like where they were going to end up, so Bail could find him.
Right. God forbid there was something that happened, like Leia getting kidnapped.
Sure. Yeah. I bet you it'll get explained somewhere. But yeah, I mean, like that makes a little bit more sense if they would like they all kind of like, hey, in case of emergency and shit gets really bad, break glass. You know.
Back to Qui-Gon, because that's where I was going with that. Could there be some connection that they can communicate that way?
I think so. I mean, like we know that the wills, like the way that they work and the things that are going on, like they can kind of like cross those weird barriers that we have. They're kind of like that fourth or fifth dimensional creature. Like they really haven't been explained. So maybe this kind of starts to explain that entire episode for the couple episodes in Clone Wars where Yoda goes through the trials, right? Maybe we'll actually get a deeper look into the trials from Ben's point of view.
Right.
He has to go through them, and we don't know how much time it takes really to go through the trials that are controlled by the wills, and he doesn't have a lot. Like he had to have already gone through the trials before episode 4, so it's very interesting.
Hold up. Can all right. Oh, you just does that mean so if Obi-Wan's gonna go through the trials of the wills, right?
Yeah.
It could happen anywhere, but could it happen on Korriban during season 1?
No, stop trying to take him off Tatooine. He's a goddamn hermit. No, he's a hermit. He lives.
I just want to see live action Korriban. Come on.
No, we'll get that. It's just that's going to be an acolyte. That's going to be an acolyte. It's not going to be an Obi-Wan. He's not going to Korriban. He's keeping his ass on Tatooine, and he's gonna force meditate, and he's gonna leave his body. His Force spirit's gonna leave his body, and he's gonna go do the trials. I guarantee it. It's gonna be you know how they brought in the idea of Force healing in episode 9? Like that was not canon. Force healing was not canon until that it was Legends, and now it is official Star Wars lore that Jedi can heal each other by touch and by giving up some of their life energy. But we also haven't seen the ability for them to actually like use their Force projection other than like with Luke. Like they really haven't showcased a lot of that, Force projecting yourself elsewhere. That wasn't canon until episode 8. The idea of Force projection and being able to leave your body and interact with the world outside of it. So it's very interesting. So I mean, like maybe that's how he leaves Tatooine, Kevin, and goes and does, maybe he does go to Korriban then that way.
On a Force peyote journey?
Yeah, maybe. I like honestly, I think that's the route they're gonna go down with Obi-Wan. It's going to be a lot of that. Also, we know that the journals of Obi-Wan is also another big source of information that they're pulling from as well. So I didn't know that comic series existed. So now I'm gonna go back and read all of those because there's a lot of information that's getting pulled from there. So I would love to see if there's any part of that comic book that actually talks about this.
And the YouTube video you sent me really seems to think that Chrysanthemum's going to show up, which would make sense since they just introduced him.
Yeah, he's a great character. He even has a freaking Fortnite skin.
Yeah, and he's a major part of the journal comic because I forget the exact reason.
Okay, so the exact reason.
Jabba, right?
I went down the rabbit hole of this. So Obi-Wan. Remember how I was talking yesterday about Obi-Wan and Jabba the Hutt and how they've got some history? So Obi-Wan doesn't like the fact that Jabba the Hutt is taxing the crap out of moisture farmers. Owen's probably losing money And so Obi-Wan steps in. He's like, no, this isn't going to happen anymore. Fixes it and everything. Jabba gets mad. This is the TLDR. Jabba gets really mad and sends Chrysanthemum after Owen. And so then Obi-Wan saves Owen. And so that's how Chrysanthemum gets the scar across his eye is actually from Obi-Wan's blade. And so I think that's a really cool touch. And they show Chrysanthemum enough. They have like the close-ups and everything in Book of Boba Fett to showcase that scar he has. And so like that would be pretty cool if they actually did that in live action, that fight, because again, they introduced a really cool Wookiee character. Everybody loves the Wookiees because they're neat. They're the muscle of Star Wars. And I think he deserves some more screen time.
And I think because they introduced him in Book of Boba Fett, there's no reason they wouldn't bring him back.
He's
here.
fresh. He's
Just
fresh. He was in Boba Fett. They put him in Fortnite. Why wouldn't they want to use him in Obi-Wan, especially when you already have? Yeah, I think you can. I think the bundle's still there. Make sure to use code Darkness429 when you're.
I will. Yeah, on the Epic
perfect.
Store. Just
yeah, at the game store. Yeah, just make sure to use code Darkness429. Perfect. Awesome.
I did that actually when I bought my battle pass. Yeah, I think he has to show up. My next question, and again, I have to ask now that we're 2 episodes in, Ahsoka.
Yep. Okay, did you think Ahsoka was standing in his cave?
No, I knew that was Bail.
Dude, I want to know how many people went Ahsoka when he walks into the cave and it's a gray cloak with the hood over. I was like, man, people are gonna think this is Ahsoka and they're gonna freak out and they're gonna get blue balled right away.
No, I knew it was Bail because I knew he would go appeal to, because I knew Obi-Wan couldn't say no because he
almost
saw it when he was with her, like just the love he has for her because of how he was with their parents, and the way he smiled at Luke when he was watching him. Just you can tell like there's no way he could say no, and Bail knew he couldn't say no if he went face to face with him, so I knew it was him. But Ahsoka showing up, I feel like it makes more sense now that we're 2 episodes in to see her at some point as well.
Why?
Because they're breaking down the barriers of what the original barrier was. The Jedi had no contact with each other post episode 3 and into 4. Like they could not communicate. To me, that's been broken down. We know that Jedi are on the run. At this point, I don't know if this predates or Ahsoka's novel is post this.
Ahsoka's novel takes place like days, if not weeks after Order 66. Like
so
she's
this is
on
10 years after then.
Right. She's on the run, and that was the creation of her new lightsabers when she was well, I wouldn't say weeks. It's probably a year or 2 because the Inquisitors were brand new. It's fairly fresh. I'll just go and say that. It's fairly fresh post Order 66.
So this is after. So we don't see her again until Rebels. So there's a large gap in her story right now. And we know her series takes place in the Mandoverse later in the timeline. So again, I don't see a reason why she wouldn't show up if the Jedi are now talking to each other and making plans to protect the children and all that stuff. I have a feeling she's going to show up. And I think Cal is too. I know you don't want him to, but I have a feeling they're both going to show up.
And that is going to be so much fan service if Ahsoka and Cal Kestis show up.
But they're doing fan service already, and we know they do fan service in all of the series. Like it just adds up from a business, from a marketing standpoint, and from a lore and storytelling standpoint. It just all makes sense to see these people because they are the recognizable characters.
I just think the frustrating part for me is that Ahsoka has like, why would she go there to learn from him? He wants nothing to do with that. Like there's no like I'm trying to think of it from a story point, from a plot point. What service does she bring other than going, oh, it's a younger Ahsoka? Keep in mind, this is 5 years before episode 4. The Ahsoka that we've seen, the Rosario Dawson that we've seen, is 5 years after episode 6. So that's like what? 15 years? 10 years?
But she's also, isn't she in like all the Fulcrum shit now where she is like working the Rebel Network to help them?
No, I agree with you. Yes, she is. But what are they going to do with Rosario Dawson? Are they going to de-age her? Are they going to make a younger Ahsoka? Like these are the questions that I'm asking. Her ending up from the Star Wars storytelling point of view? Sure. Yes, I'm thinking about it from a Disney Plus actress standpoint, Rosario Dawson is X amount of years old. Ahsoka needs to be younger than that for it to work. I just don't know if they could sell it.
I
That's
don't
that's the
I
part that I'm struggling with.
I don't think her Montrells grow though from episode 3 Ahsoka, or I'm sorry, from Clone Wars end of Ahsoka from Order 66 to Rebels, because I think she is fully grown at that point from when we meet her in season 1.
Her
So
her Leku, it goes
Leku, sorry.
it goes farther down when you see her at the end of Rebels, at the end of 6 of episode 6 when the Death Star explodes and you get the Ahsoka that's going to go look for Thrawn and Ezra. Her Leku's longer. She's aged because it went from episode 4 to episode, or before episode 4 to episode 6. So she's gotten older. That's why a lot of people were like, why does she have the shorter Leku when you showed it that it was older, so, or longer? And so like that's the whole thing, is like it's just she has to be the Snips. She has to be Snips at this point. She's not the grown Wayfinder Ahsoka that we see in Rebels at this point. She's done a lot of growing. You know, she
I was
went
gonna
through
say,
the
wouldn't
whole
she
like
be like pretty much on that journey though? Like pretty mature at this point. She's been on the run for God knows how long. She
she
already went through the stuff in her novel.
oh, I mean, mature from experience. Sure, I'm just talking about it just from like again, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. Does it work? Like a Rosario
I think
Dawson
so.
as Ahsoka in Obi-Wan. Does it work?
I think so. I
I don't
think it
know.
works.
That's an open-ended question. That's not me fighting against it. That's just me asking, how does this all flow if she does show up? That's all. I think it could happen. Sure. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't know if we need it to sell this story, because again, Ahsoka's cool, but this is a story about Obi-Wan and Anakin. This is about brothers. This is a story about a person who failed someone else that feels so bad, and like he lost his son. He watched his child die. Um
He
and
killed him
and yeah,
in
I
his
mean, like
mind.
he in a sense he ended Anakin's life. And so I think that that's where this story lies. I think the story lies with Ben, his transformation into Ben Kenobi that we see in episode 4. And I think this is going to also bring more of a human aspect to Darth Vader and really showcase that there is good in him. There is a struggle. There is more. It isn't just more machine than there is man now, like what Ben says. When Ben goes and says there's more machine than man, it's because he sees all of the hatred and all of the anger and all of the stuff that Anakin wants him to see. But behind the mask, when he's, in his meditation tanks, or when he's by himself and alone, he's a man. He's a human. He's sad. He's torn up. And so like that's the angle of the show that I want to see. And I feel like that's going to be more impactful to Star Wars fans, is really showcasing this love story between two brothers. And I feel like bringing in, Ahsoka, or bringing in Cal Kestis, and all these things, it feels like it takes away from the real motivation to bringing Obi-Wan back. Because there's so much that story, there's so much disconnect between episode 3 and when we leave Vader on that shore burning, and when we pick up in episode 4.
So
So it's a lot.
here's why I think, and again, there's a lot of good points from people about why Ahsoka wouldn't show up, and there's a lot of good points why she would. So it's a wait and see game. For characters like Cal and maybe some other Jedi that might be floating around, as we already met one. Um, when Haja was hilariously doing his fake Jedi mind trick over the comm.
It was so good, dude.
Was
I'm
hysterical.
leaving your mind.
Because it plays into the myths and the legends about the Jedi,
Sure.
because people don't really know. We know more than the general public knows about Jedi, which I think is wonderful. But the point being is that when Anakin heard that kid had when Obi-Wan heard that kid had the Force,
Yep.
his eyes went up like, oh my God, like he's in danger. His
Mhm.
sense of responsibility kicked in. So I think the more he reconnects with his old self as the story goes on, the more his responsibility to the Jedi Order, the former Republic, and children who have the Force and keeping them away from Inquisitors and even adults, to be honest, the more that will increase and the more it will make him want to do something about it, if you will. Do I think he's going to go all over the universe and save all Force sensitive children? Absolutely not. He has a responsibility. He's going to remain on Tatooine for the most part. Do I also think Dayu is the last planet we're going to see him go to in the series? No. I think he will take at least one more trip somewhere else for whatever reason. He's got to go to Alderaan to drop off Leia anyway.
So we know that he will drop off Leia. Does he go to Alderaan? Not sure. We do know that he does end up getting captured and going to the Inquisitor home base. And so, yes, we know that we will see at least one more planet before, we're stuck on Tatooine with Ben.
Keep in mind that trailer could have been like, remember how they did the Star Trek trailers where they manipulated the way we were perceiving it, and that's not how it played out in the movie?
Oh yeah, I mean, all of this could have
be
just
that.
been completely just smoke and mirrors to throw us off. Like the idea of Leia, kid Leia being a part of the show in any capacity was hidden very, very well. I didn't think that I needed it, and here I am going, wow, that's damn good. I'm really happy that they did that for her.
What if he goes to Mustafar to confront Anakin now that he knows he's alive?
Man, that would be so sick because Vader's castle is just riddled with lore. It is just, oh my god, it's just seeping out from every crack and orifice in that castle.
And they already have
stuff.
it. They have it rendered out in Rogue One.
Well, they also laid it out. They laid the footwork or the groundwork. They did a lot of the footwork for developing that planet, developing the castle, developing the old Jedi, the old Sith. He was a Jedi at first, and then he turned. I'm forgetting Darth. What's his face? But anyways, the mask that this Sith Lord had, it holds it is imbued with his spirit, and so it's like that mask torments Vader in this castle that belonged to this Sith Lord, which then, like, if you go and play Vader Immortal, there's a whole nother layer to what happened to Mustafar and how the Force is involved and how the Sith got involved. It's so awesome. And so, yeah, for him to go to Mustafar would make so much sense because there's so much dark stuff that they've already just planned out for that planet. I say yes. I think it'd be cool.
It's also in the Lego Star Wars Halloween movie. So
yeah, no, Mustafar's all over the place. Look, they even we talked about this a couple episodes ago, the idea of sorry, Chad, spoiler alert, the idea of Mustafar being in Doctor Strange. Getting that little teaser of Mustafar for that quick second. Like, what if that was like a nod of like, hey, by the way, you're gonna see this again.
Mustafar is also in the beginning of episode 9. You pointed that out.
Yeah, so it's in the beginning of episode 9, but you might not. So for those that aren't like crazy Star Wars fans and you don't listen to us all the time, sorry, you should definitely fix that by just typing
Lord Momin, by the way,
SWS in chat, ! SWS if you like. So Momin. What was I saying? Oh, right. So anyways, so when you in Vader Immortal, you actually are a reason. You are the reason. The protagonist is the reason why Mustafar starts to go back to normal when we see it in episode 9. So Mustafar used to be this beautiful, very lush planet, and then some bad people messed around with the core of the planet because it was imbued with some pretty crazy magic, and it turned the planet into fire and chaos. And so you fix the planet and you restore balance, and it starts to heal itself. And so when we go back to Mustafar in episode 9, when Kylo is looking for Exegol, we're there, but you don't recognize it unless you recognize the rubble of Vader's castle that Kylo is in, and that's it.
You should get Lord Momin's mask and put it on your shelf.
It looks cool.
They sell
it's a really cool looking mask.
They sell it. It's pretty cool. So from here, we've kind of picked the episodes apart. Is there anything in the episodes you want to talk about before we start laying out some more of where we think it's going to go?
Like overall, just kind of touch on the fact that we saw so many different types of alien creatures in this in episode 2. Even on Tatooine, I was really surprised how heavy they leaned into just showcasing all different types of alien races that we've never seen before or only ever seen drawn and never seen in live action. And so just like I really appreciated that because it just made the world feel more alive. I've had problems in the past with with Mandalorian and even like Book of Boba Fett. Sometimes it felt empty. Like the scenes felt they didn't feel alive. And because they were real they were leaning very heavily on the VFX. They were like, the volume and showcasing all of that. But this felt like the perfect the perfect mashup of VFX and also live effects and real world effects and makeup and costumes. And it felt like a proper Star Wars movie. And I really, really appreciate it. Just like one little thing that as we were going through the 2 episodes, is just like all of the makeup and all of the costuming and just everything felt so right. There was just like I had a hard time going, I didn't like that. There really isn't a moment where I was like, which I thought was great because there's definitely been episodes and we've done it before on the show of like, oh, that was a filler episode. Like there wasn't really anything there. It was okay. But like the whole way through, that was just pedal to the metal, balls to the wall. It was you got almost 2 hours of pure unadulterated Star Wars. It was great.
It was one of the most, like from a cinematography standpoint, it was one of the most beautiful Star Wars shows we've seen to date. I thought the way they used the volume was pretty seamless. I was looking for the line again, and it was very, very hard to spot in most scenes from the practical effects. Like even when they set up the balcony on Alderaan, you could see that the background was the volume, but the immersion was just too damn good, and the way they shot it and framed it was perfect from a practical standpoint, and then using the virtual environment.
I really like the way that Deborah Chow took on this project and the way that she like the lens that she shot it through. I thought it's been really fun. She uses a fisheye a couple times in a couple shots, which I thought was really interesting. It gave a whole different look to Star Wars because I don't think they've ever used like a fisheye lens effect before, and I thought that was really cool. That just like it gave you just a whole different sense of the world when they did those shots. It was subtle, but it was just like, oh, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah, no, it was different, and it was definitely her vision this time because she worked on Mandalorian season 1. If you don't know,
And every episode that she did, I loved.
Yep, which is why we were excited for this especially from a cinematography standpoint. But she absolutely nailed it, and she's the only one working on this one from that little group of directors. So this is all her bringing this to life. When you look at the cast list, I know that a lot of the characters aren't fleshed out with names on IMDb. It does show how many episodes they're in, which can help speculate what's coming. So little Leia's in every episode. The Grand Inquisitor is in every episode.
Okay, so hold
Owen.
on.
Go ahead.
Can I stop you real quick? The Jedi that we saw strung up on Mos Eisley, he's also listed in all 6 episodes.
Yeah, which is weird.
So I don't know if that's entirely true.
You think
I think
wrong?
I think IMDb has not been properly updated. I think it is.
What about flashbacks?
I think what they did is they just assume they know who's in the show. They just don't know how many episodes that they are in, so they just attributed them to all 6 episodes until the show is done and they can properly go in. Because I don't think Disney's going to say anything, so they're going to have to wait.
5. Little Luke says 2. The Spice Girl says 4. So there's some people that are listed out.
Why would that Spice Girl come back?
Oh, I found something that's wrong already because O'Shea Jackson didn't show up yet, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and it says he's in 6 episodes, so that's wrong. All right, so my little inkling here was wrong.
Yeah, I looked at IMDb before we started the show because I wanted to get a name. I was looking for I think she's this the 7th sister, but I'm not entirely sure.
Reva?
No, the other female Inquisitor.
Oh, the one that showed up in the 2nd episode.
I think at least I thought that reminded me a lot because she's with the
Let me look it up.
She's with the brother. I always have a hard time keeping track of freaking Inquisitors. I'm gonna pull up the Inquisitor list. But she like there's a
second sister die in.
No, that's second.
Order?
That's second sister. I think she's the 7th sister.
7. You know what we didn't talk about?
What?
Credits for an old war veteran.
Sorry?
Credits for a Clone War veteran.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I love that Tamora Morrison will always have a job.
It's true.
Like literally, he has a job locked in for a long, long time because he has the ability to play every single clone, right? He can be any clone. He can be Rex, he can be Cody, he could be any of them. He could be anybody from the Bad Batch, essentially. So it's really cool to see him just like in one of the episodes, in episode 2, as a homeless clone that's just looking for credits so that he can eat. And I thought that was really, really interesting because it just really goes to show again, like they did this really, really well in the Bad Batch as they started to conscript just normal citizens into the Imperial forces, into the Navy and whatnot, and how they realized that clones were too expensive. It wasn't worth it for them, so let's get rid of them. And it was very, very interesting to see that highlighted so well and done in a really nice way because if anything, like it really is a nod to how we treat veterans now. They kind of just like they do their job and unfortunately they get forgotten and like that sucks. And
And
they showcase it really well when Obi-Wan looks at him because that's the face of everyone that he loved.
his
Everyone from the
friends, his
501st, his
enemies.
friends. Exactly. Not only were those people that he fought side by side, right? Shoulder to shoulder, they were also people that he loved and then those are also people that he watched kill some of the most, the most important people in the Jedi Order.
He
And
was
so I'm sure there's this tug of war as far like when it comes to emotions for him.
Yeah, there was a mix of fear and compassion in his face.
Very much
Um,
so.
yeah, and he seemed a little like tormented, caught off guard, also on guard, but then, you saw the compassion kick in and he gave him the credits. Um, and then the internet's like, "Oh my god, that means we're gonna see Cody or Rex." I'm like, maybe, but I don't see how they would play into the story. Rex would be the only one I could assume that could possibly maybe show up.
Okay, all right. So CJ's in chat, and him and I were talking about this earlier before we started the show.
All right.
And I think he has a great theory, and I want to know your take on it. What
All right,
if
go for it.
What if Cody is a purge trooper now?
I mean, it would make sense. I don't
But
hate
could
that.
you imagine? Like I know, but we know that there's purge troopers in the show. There's
Yeah,
a
they're in the
scene.
trailer.
There's a scene in the trailer of purge troopers. So what if helmet comes off and it's fucking Cody under the helmet?
How would he know it's Cody though?
He would know. Cody's. They all of the clones that had names that were not that weren't just whatever their number. All of the ones that had names had some type of insignia. They had some type of marking that has allowed people to understand. Oh, that's Rex. Oh, that's Cody. Either color or some type of marking on their face. I forget what Cody has, but I feel like Obi-Wan would be like,
What?
Cody.
What if Cody is one of Vader's death troopers?
I like the idea of him being a purge trooper because
more
he
sense.
still has the chip in his head. I would assume Cody has the chip, so he's still on the. He's an old clone, right? He's a revision 1 clone. He's older, so he's got the chip in his head, and he's still on Order 66. They never really turned it off, right? And so he's still on kill mode for Jedi. So why wouldn't you put the perfect Jedi hunting person in a purge trooper armor set and let him go play around with Jedi? It sounds awesome. I'm here for it.
I'm down. I'm totally
Because
down.
again, this entire show is all about pulling on heartstrings. It's all about ripping every single string on Obi-Wan. And who
you
did he
also
love?
you have Tamir Morrison, so you
Exactly.
can do it.
You're right. But who did he love? He loved Anakin. He loved Duchess Satine. He loved Cody.
501st, the whole group.
Anyone that was names, like they all loved each other. But think about it from Obi-Wan and the characters that he is connected with when it comes to the animated show. Satine's dead. Freaking Anakin's Vader now, and the only other person that's left for them to really pull on is Cody. And so, like, that would be another really nice low blow, twist of the dagger in the back of watching one of his best friends pull off his helmet and go, I'm going to kill you.
It would also make sense from the perspective, well, I guess we would need to learn more about that Admiral's plans from Bad Batch for the decommissioning of the clones. Because we don't know the extent. Did they keep some? Did they, because
We
obviously
know
the
that they
Bad Batch
did.
is valuable to them, and we know that most likely that those Crosshair's little group is the beginning of the Death Trooper program.
Right.
So it really depends on what extent they were decommissioning the clones and if they kept some around for the better ones, if you will, to do
Well,
some of
there
the
was
dirty
different.
work.
So there was. Well, I mean, we don't know what happened to Camino exactly. We know from the Bad Batch that the Empire blew it up, but we have no idea
Might
what
find
they
out in
did with.
Andor.
Right. We don't know what they did with the technology. We don't know what they did with all the clones. Like there was still embryo pods. There was still children. There were still teenagers. Like there were still multiple levels of development, even to the very end. And we know that the cloning technology continues on, right? We just know that its imperial control is now in effect. So
So
I'm really curious to see how they lean into that.
Cody has a scar over his left eye and on his left forehead. So that would be the indicator.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's under his eye too. So it's like under his eye here and it goes like up and around his eye
Yeah.
up in here. So that would be the indicator. It's Cody if a helmet does come off.
And I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, it makes sense. Again, leaning into, I guess, kind of like, your fan service, right, Kevin? That's another character that people are curious about too, because we don't know what happens to Cody. There is no in all of the Wikipedia entries and everything else that I've gone looking for, we don't actually know what happens to him. So I think this is I think that would be a great way to also close off that character story. Is you end it here in Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it would make sense. What if he has to kill him?
I mean, honestly, again, it's another "you were like my brother" moment, right?
More
You have
PTSD for him.
exactly. This is all going to be about Obi-Wan having to just dig up all of the nasty emotions that he has had buried down for 10 years, and we're
One other
seeing it
question.
right now.
One other question for you. Do you think we'll see some dealings with the Sand People and him in this?
Oh, most definitely. I don't see why we wouldn't. We've already
Especially because
seen
of Book of Boba Fett.
exactly. That was going to be my point, is that we already have a really awesome depiction of what life is like for the Sand People, right? They're no longer
Yep.
these savages that just harass people and ride around on banthas. They're far more intricate. They're very unique people that have been around a lot longer than anyone else on that planet. So I would love to see that, because we know that he interacts with them at a certain point, because he understands how they operate. He spooks them. Ooh!
Yep.
Like, that's from some type of interaction. And so I wouldn't even be surprised if they pull that up in the show of where that comes from, as a little nod to episode 4. They're doing a really, really awesome job of little nods to episode 4. Look at when Obi-Wan opens the door and Leia's there and she hits him right in the stomach. He's like, "I'm here to rescue you." That was literally a throwback to episode 4. And he's like, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
I can't tell you how much that little girl reminds me of my daughter.
Yeah, I mean, like,
you know my daughter. So
yeah, exactly. It's a lot like your daughter. But yeah, it's just so cool, all these little throwbacks and everything else. So I feel like, again, this is going to be an awesome bridge that is going to help connect a lot of dots and explain things. So yes, I think that the Sand People interaction will happen, and because they did already introduce us to the world in Book of Boba Fett, we are already conditioned for that. We're already ready to learn more about it because they opened up our eyes.
You answered all my questions I had for you, and all my notes are crossed off. We talked about everything I wanted to talk about.
Is there
I'm
have you
good.
seen anything in chat? Is there anything that people are
We
curious
actually
about?
I was pulling comments from chat
Oh,
and dropping them
perfect.
in our chat, and we answered all of them during our conversations chat. So you got about maybe roughly 5 minutes if you want to throw some questions down for me and Tim, since this is a live episode at fb.gg/darkness429 for those of you listening to this in the future. Maybe once in a while we'll do this on Tim's channel for poignant moments in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like,
I don't want you to get used to this. I want this.
No, I don't want them to get used to it, but chat is very much so used to me talking about Star Wars all the time anyways. So this is
the biggest Star Wars fan.
But overall, Kevin, how do you feel about the Obi-Wan series and going forward? What are you feeling for episode 3? What do you think is gonna happen?
I just think it's going to be gut punches throughout. I think we're going to explore his trauma more. I think we're going to reconnect with the Force. I do think either this will begin because I know they want to now add a second part to this, another series, if you will, for Obi-Wan. I don't think they'd go beyond two because it's going to be really hard to cram all of that into what we have left in the story. But I do feel like we're exploring the trauma, the reconnecting to the Force, and also the peaceful Obi-Wan we meet in Rebels when he faces off against Darth Maul. There is a piece there that is not present right now, and I think we need to get to that point because he's also very peaceful when we meet him in episode 4. He's not like this. He's not as broken as this version of Obi-Wan. So there is an emotional dip, if you will, if it was a line graph and his emotions just taking an absolute shit of a tank and slowly coming back up as he reconnects with the Force, protects the children, and maybe again seeing some of these Jedi and whatnot is going to rekindle his responsibilities in his mind of what he has to the former Republic and to the what will become the rebellion, and may even lead into some things that we see in Andor. I don't want to say lead in like a direct lead, but there could be things that are established here that carry over to Andor.
Yeah, Sam Witwer has a awesome interview that's on YouTube, and I think it was during Celebration one year, and someone asked him about that scene that you reference a lot of, Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. And you're right, there is a piece to him because I think of everything that he is going to go through in this show, and it's gonna drop us off at this peaceful Ben. When he talks about, like, he starts off in like the stance of Obi-Wan, right? And then, and that's more like it's more of an aggressive stance. It's more powerful. And then he takes his master's stance, and so it's like the idea of him taking more of a Qui-Gon approach to everything is where we're bringing Qui-Gon into the show is where I'm getting at is that he's going to learn more. He is going to learn more about the Force, and he's going to learn really what it means to be a disciple of the Force and not just a Jedi, really, not to be like a Jedi Knight, to be someone who's truly at peace, someone who has reached enlightenment, someone who is, ready for whatever is next and not stuck in the past. And so, like, that's the coolest thing too, is like he
Yep.
is so there's so much attachment. He's so attached to all of the past, and once he lets go of it, then we get the Ben Kenobi of Rebels. So
Uh,
I'm
question,
really excited.
question from chat: Who does Leia remind Obi-Wan of, Padme or Satine?
Padme.
Padme and
Padme. No,
Anakin.
so he says that. He says, you remind me of someone. And so everyone is like immediately when he sets that up, it's like he's talking about Padme. And then he goes a little bit more and you're like, "Oh no, he's talking about Anakin." And then he goes a little bit more and it's like, "Oh no, he's talking about both of them."
Both of them.
Because when he goes, "You remind me of an old friend." Well, that's open. He was friends with Padme. He was friends with Anakin. And then he goes, "No, she was a leader. She was, all these things." But then he goes on and continues to explain another friend.
Yep.
And so that was like, if you don't really catch it, but like that's the whole thing, is like it's going back and forth. Like, no, you are the best of the two people that I love the most.
He's
And so it's like
speaking
it
in riddles,
sucks. He is. He
just
is.
like he does with Luke.
He is.
His
That's
father
what's so
died during the
cool.
Clone Wars.
He is. That's what Ben does. And so it's
Yep.
like everyone's so mad about Ben. It's like when he talks like that, it's like, no, that's just what Obi-Wan does. That is how he speaks. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he was talking about both of them, but he was trying to play it ambiguously because he doesn't want her to know too much yet.
He doesn't
Um,
want, just like every parent, you don't want
protecting her.
you don't want your child to see the bad, right?
Yep.
You don't want your child to see the worst of you. Well, this child's parents aren't around, and he has this duty to keep the memories of her parents alive in a way that highlights all the good and not all the bad. And so, yeah, like, man, like the more you start thinking about it, the more like you really start to feel for Obi-Wan, and just like you
You have to
understand.
remember. You have to remember too. In the moments after that, he finds out Anakin is still alive, sitting next to his daughter.
Yeah.
The fear isn't just the moment isn't just like, oh my god, Anakin's alive. It's like, oh my god, he's gonna come for her.
Yeah,
That
he's
is
gonna
suddenly
take
the
her.
worry. It
Sure.
is not necessarily like the shock of, yeah, he's alive. I'm sure that's part of it. But the main worry is like, oh my god, he's gonna come for her. He's like looking at her. She's right there.
I think it's
they're gonna
also the
come for
idea
her.
of having to face the one thing that he messed up. It's
Yeah.
literally having to fight your nightmare. And he's gonna have to fight his nightmare. And that's a part of that whole like, oh shit, I just like this is gonna happen. So I think that's another part of it too. Cause I mean, just think of like from a mental state, just like I left him burning. I thought he died. It's taken me 10 years and I'm still not over it yet. And now I know that I left him alive. Like, oh my gosh, how much grief and just like responsibility would you feel of like I could have saved him. I could have saved him and you
I
left him there. I left him there to die.
Yep. The guilt
So
is creeping in. And you know what? People are saying it could have been Satine. It could have been Satine too. He could have been talking about Satine. I'm sure.
there is no reason for him to talk to Leia about Satine.
That say that you remind me of her. That's my hang up.
There is absolutely no reason for him to talk like that unless, I mean, you could be right because again, it's an open-ended, you remind me of someone. No, she was a senator. No, because I mean, like, yes, I mean, or she was a leader. Okay, Satine was also she was a leader. So to your point, yes, could he be talking about Satine? Sure. Was he talking about Satine? I don't think so. I think that because it's Leia, he knows who she is. He hasn't seen her in 10 years. The last time he saw her was the droid pulling her out of her mother and watching her mother die.
Mhm.
So it was the last time that he saw Padme alive and saw Leia. The last time that he saw Padme was when it was her funeral and they were sending that body double down the river. So technically, the last time they saw Padme was there with Leia. And so I think for him to recall her mother, to recall Padme and say, you remind me of her because she was spunky. She was fierce. She was fearless. It makes sense to me that he would call upon that memory to say, wow, you really do remind me of your mother without saying, wow, you're just like your mother.
Exactly, because when you talk about a child, you always say like, "You remind me of your father. You remind me of your mother."
Dude,
You
I'm
don't
not gonna
say,
go
"You
to
remind me
Kyler
of
and be
this."
like, hey, dude, you remind me of my friend from 4th grade.
Hey, kid, you remind me of this chick I was banging back in the
Yeah,
day.
dude,
You
that's
know, like
weird,
that's a little
right?
weird.
Like,
That's a little weird. A little weird,
yeah,
chat. A little weird. A
a little
weird.
weird.
Took out to a dark place. Well, we're gonna get out of here because Tim is gonna play some video games today. So if you're hanging out on Tim's chat,
Hey,
make sure you do not leave epi.gg/darkness429 Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. ish Eastern every week. And he's Darkness429 everywhere else on the internet. I am Kevin X Vision on Twitter, KMagic101 on Instagram, and everything I do is at raredrop.co. We also have a Star Wars and Scotch handle over here on Facebook. We got it on Twitter. You can search Star Wars Scotch, Star Wars and Scotch, and it will come up. But this is episode 84, which means next week we will be doing episode 85. And the week after that, we're going to be at GCX trying to record episode 86. Shoot me. So it should be fun, but there's no way in hell that you can keep Tim and I from talking about Obi-Wan.
Oh no way. You might hear us on Star Wars Explained at some point. We're hanging out with Alex and Molly, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And then GCX, if you want to check out the panel for Star Wars and Scotch All-Star lineup with Mark Thompson, Alex and Molly Damon from Star Wars Explained, and our good friend Sawyerism from TikTok. But I am going to let you go so you all can hang out with Tim and have a great time. What are you playing today?
Tarkov. It took me a second. I was like, what was I planning on doing today? Tarkov.
So you can play Tarkov. I would play Blood Hunt with Tim. I'm during the day, I'm here doing stuff.
I don't think
Tim's there doing other stuff.
Have you ever played Blood Hunt?
No.
You'd be tired. You would be exhausted. It is, man, is that an adventure? Yeah, he loves Fortnite no build right now.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Maybe we should do some Fortnite Star Wars.
I would do that. I got Obi-Wan's lightsaber the other day. I was cutting people down. I felt like a Sith, not a Jedi. It was wonderful. But you all, if you want to check out old episodes of Star Wars and Scotch, I mean, it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can check it out and hang out. But Tim and I will be back next week. Not here. We'll be recording next week. Don't get used to this Facebook chat. This is special.
It's not live. It's not live. It's a special one.
We're gonna make it special again, but not next week. Don't worry. We'll come back. But you all have a good one. Have fun with Tim today. And Tim, it's your channel. Take us out.
May the Force be with you.